That's pretty much it. So let's keep going, and please give a nice round of applause to our first guest today on stage. It's Steve Lee, and his speech is called Bolt12 Makes Bitcoin Digital Cash. Steve.
Thank you. How's everyone doing this morning? So I'm here to talk about Bolt12, not Bcash, but making Bitcoin Cash and how Bolt12 can play a role in that. I thought I'd start off with this tweet that I just did a few days ago. How many people saw Craig Raw's comments about erosion of principles in Bitcoin? A few of you. I don't know what event he was speaking at, but he just spoke to concerns about maybe a larger section of Bitcoin community and Bitcoin developers who are losing sight of core principles of Bitcoin, including privacy, censorship resistance, security. And I just found that to be an opportune moment to speak about concerns that I have around LNURL and how it's an example of that erosion. It solves a lot of problems, which is why it's been popularized. But today I'll talk about Bolt12 and how it solves the same problems without the erosion of those principles. And also tie it back to how that's important to creating digital cash with Bitcoin. So let's first take a step back and just talk about cash, like paper money that humans have been using for centuries. And what are a few properties that are really important with regular old cash? Certainly one is that there's no third party involved in a transaction. If I go to a store and hand over a $20 bill to someone to purchase a good, there's no third party to censor it, block it, ban me. I don't have to fill out a registration form to make that purchase. So it's a more private transaction. And it's quite secure too, in the sense that I just hand over the $20 bill. However, as the world's transitioned to digital money, those essential properties have been lost. And I think a lot of people don't recognize that. But I worry about a future in which people and society will feel the pain of losing those properties unless we solve it. Of course, Bitcoin was invented 15 or so years ago, partly to solve those problems. Along came Lightning, and that improved Bitcoin substantially in terms of a payment network and an ability to do instant payments. But let's look at how Lightning payments are done today, the payment protocol. Of course, Bolt11 is the predominant way that the predominant protocol for making Lightning payments today. And it certainly gets the job done. It's ubiquitous. Every Lightning wallet supports Bolt11. But it also certainly has a lot of drawbacks. It was optimized for a certain use case, like a customer paying a merchant. But it's invoice-based, a one-time use invoice that doesn't allow for reusable payment IDs, and thus you can't do human-readable names with Bolt11. It's also not super privacy-oriented. There's no privacy for the recipient of a payment with Bolt11. And there's a number of other drawbacks of Bolt11. So along comes LNURL, which is developed, and it solved several of these problems. I mean, most fundamentally with LNURL, since it introduces the notion of a web server to issue invoices, you can get reusable payment identifier because of this reliance on a server that can issue a new invoice each time someone wants to pay you. And that's important if you're wanting to accept tips or any kind of QR code you want to print somewhere and make available. But it's also fundamental to creating human-readable names. And of course, Lightning Address has become quite popular as a way to have a human-readable name, and you can share that with anyone so that they can pay you at any point in time. So there's real usability benefits to LNURL. I'm not a hater of LNURL. They advanced usability tremendously. However, I am concerned if we don't advance and improve upon the current LNURL solution, that we do erode critical core components of the Bitcoin proposition. And namely, that's number one, censorship resistance. Because since most people that use Lightning Address and LNURL today are relying on a third-party server, and at least in the US and probably other parts of the world, if you're running one of those servers, you're compelled by law to not allow payments from certain jurisdictions in the world. So if someone happens to be on this naughty list, then that payment would be blocked. It's not censorship resistance. Number two is privacy concerns with an LNURL server, and that server learns who's paying who and the amount, and is able to log all that information. And even if the company behind that has no ill intentions, it's still a honeypot of data and information for governments or hackers or bad actors. And then third, there's security concerns with running a third-party LNURL server, and that they're issuing the invoice on behalf of the user. So there's nothing stopping that server from issuing an invoice that pays someone else. And you can imagine that manifesting itself in multiple ways. It could just do this maybe 1 in 100 payments, so it might go undetected for a long period of time. And it doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be the operator that does this. It could be a hacker that is doing this, and it's not even detected by the operator of that server. So there are security concerns with it as well. So there are a number of things that it does not emulate cache-like properties. So what did we do? Well, enter Bolt12. So Bolt12 promises to have all the usability benefits of LNURL, while also offering superior privacy, censorship resistance, and improved security. So next, I'm going to go through a few of Bolt12's features. I'm not going to go into a lot of technical detail. I'll try to leave some time at the end in case people have questions. But I'll walk through the basic elements of Bolt12. The first being reusable offers. So again, with Bolt11, the interface that people interact with, users interact with, is an invoice. If I have a wallet and I want to receive money, I generate an invoice, I give that invoice to someone else, and it often is in the form of a QR code or a long string of hexadecimal digits. Bolt12 is different in that it's a two-stage process. It starts with what is called an offer. That's the reusable part. And so if I want to get paid, I can issue an offer, or I can just post an offer anywhere. If you want to pay me, you then take that offer, which provides enough information to you to find my wallet and be able to request an invoice. And then that can be done over and over and over again. So the offer is reusable, and you can request an invoice each time you want to make a payment. So what does that enable? One thing that enables is human-readable names. So just like Lightning Address with LNURL, but instead we can use Bolt12, and we don't need a web server. So no web server is needed because you're using, the next slide I'll talk about onion messages, but you can use a different message network to make that request, to get an invoice and make the payment. And secondly, there's been a proposal made for human-readable names that does not rely on a web server, but instead can utilize DNS in order to look up a name. If you look at the, on the right-hand side, you can imagine a naming scheme in which you have a human-readable name. I want to make a payment to Jordan at jordanlee.com. By the way, Christoph, is Lee based on me? People might think I picked that name because of me, but Christoph, I think, created this visual. But you make a request to a DNS server with that name, and you can get back a path to an offer to make the payment. So you get the benefits of human readable names that LN URL and Lightning address offer today, but while preserving those core properties. I briefly mentioned onion messages. This is another key element of how Bolt12 is built. Onion messages are now part of the spec. It's in the Bolt specs for Lightning implementations. And so Lightning nodes can now support onion messages, and they offer the ability to send any messages back and forth between Lightning nodes. So this obviates the need for running a web server, again, to facilitate making a request to fetch an invoice to make a payment. They can also be used for passing other information as well that might be related to that payment. Blinded paths is another key part of Bolt12, and this offers a tremendous privacy benefit. So again, with Bolt11, the invoice in Bolt11 shows or includes the node ID of the recipient. So it's not good privacy. Every sender learns the node ID and then can track other information about that recipient over time. With a blinded path, it introduces the notion of these orange dots are nodes in the network. The notion of an introduction node, the sender of a payment only knows that they're paying this introduction node, which is not the final recipient. So it gives you some distance and abstraction from who that final recipient is. So that's another fundamental part of Bolt12. I wanted to touch on async payments as well. I don't think it's officially part of Bolt12 yet, but some folks on Spiral have been working on speccing out async payments and implementing a prototype. What does it do? A major usability issue with Lightning for mobile phone users, of course, is receiving payments. You can't receive payments reliably. Because with Lightning, you need to be online. You need to be able to sign a transaction and access your private keys to finalize a payment and receive it. And right now, my mobile phone's sitting right here. I don't have my wallet app open. There's not a reliable mechanism on mobile operating systems to wake up the app to be able to finalize that received payment. So the async payments protocol works by holding the payment until the recipient is online. But the magic of it is it doesn't hold it at the last hop. It holds it at the first hop. So it does not tie up liquidity in the Lightning Network during that period of time while you're waiting, which could be minutes, hours, or even days. So it's much friendlier to the network in that way. So this part is in development right now. Hopefully during this year, there'll be demonstrations that it actually works, and we'll see it implemented in some and eventually all of the Lightning implementations. The last component I'll mention, and I think probably very few people know about this is a proposed extension of Bolt12 in the early stages, but I wanted to mention it now just to get the word out more. The Spiral teams heard from a few different vendors in the space, including Zapright and Square, that there's an interest in facilitating a situation where maybe I'm the customer, I want to pay a merchant, but the merchant is using a third party, such as Zapright or Square, but it could be any third party merchant point of sale software, but the merchant wants to run their own wallet. They want to choose their own Lightning wallet while using a third-party point-of-sale system. And currently, Bolt12 does not facilitate that arrangement. LNURL does, so that was a gap between LNURL and how Bolt12 works. So a few folks have been working on, there is a straightforward way to extend Bolt12 to facilitate that, so that there can be the proper communication between the point-of-sale system and the merchant. So the merchant can receive the payment, but the point-of-sale system is able to properly record it for accounting purposes and any other features they might offer a merchant. So that's the high-level components of Bolt12. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is about adoption. And my pitch for why we need to start talking about adoption now. Before I get into that, I'm curious, how many people in the audience think of Bolt12 as something Rusty proposed 5 years ago, and then it's sort of been lost and no one's been working on it? Is that a sentiment? Yeah, John. I think that's a common sentiment because it's taken a long time to implement at the protocol level, and so far we've seen it's taken 1 to 2 years per Lightning implementation to implement it. So it's quite a bit of work at the Lightning implementation level, but we're finally reaching a point now where that work is mostly done, and we can move on to a new phase, which is wallets adopting it. So I think maybe part of the pitch today is that I hope to motivate others in the audience and others in the Bitcoin community who are Bolt12 advocates and I really think this is important to start evangelizing it more and create more discussion about it within the Bitcoin community. Why do I think it's really important that this is like an urgent issue to adopt? Perhaps one reason is you might have heard Lightning is the open monetary network, or Lightning is like the interoperable glue between many different technologies and platforms in the ecosystem. So whether you're using a custodial solution, like you have coins on Kraken or on Cash App, or if you're running your own Lightning wallet, you're using Breeze or Phoenix or a different Mutiny, or let's say you're using an eCash wallet, Cashew or a Fedimint wallet, or any other type of technology, state chains, ARC, you name it. There's all kinds of different scaling solutions and different technologies. What's the one thing that ties them all together? Well, there's two things. One is Bitcoin, of course. All of those use Bitcoin as money and as the actual token. But Lightning glues them all together as well. And that I could have Bitcoin on Cash App, and I could pay someone in the audience who's using Breeze or is using Fedi. And I don't even need to know what eCash or Fedimint is, and I can pay that person because both systems use Lightning. And specifically, they not only use a Lightning network, but the payment protocol is incredibly important in that interoperability. And today, the payment protocol that's ubiquitous is Bolt11. LNURL has tremendous adoption as well. So the reason why it's important to get adoption started on Bolt12 is that if we wait too long, it might be too difficult of network effects with Bolt11 and LNURL to never move to Bolt12. And I worry, as Lightning is finding that product market fit in this open monetary network, that if we don't get the move on with Bolt12, it might be lost, even though it has these tremendous benefits. So that's why I think it's urgent. So what's the current status? Well, these 4 projects, this is CLN, Eclair, LDK, and LNDK. You probably heard of the first 3, maybe not the 4th one. But these 4 projects all support Bolt12. And let me speak a little bit more to LNDK in case you're not familiar. The notable Lightning implementation that's missing here is LND. And LNDK it's a project that's intended to be used by LND users who want to support Bolt12 Pay. So it would be a separate process you can run. So let's say you're Kraken or Strike or an LND user, like one of them. They could run LNDK in addition to LND, and the LNDK process is able to speak both Bolt12 language. It can parse and handle Bolt12 invoices. It can also handle onion messages, two things that LND does not support today. But then it uses the custom messages protocol between LND and LNDK to actually facilitate the payment. So I think until LND supports Bolt12, this is an important project so that the many exchanges that run LND today are able to pay a mobile wallet or any other wallet that wants to receive via Bolt12. And of course, with LDK, CLN, and Eclair, we're seeing more and more mobile wallets that are based on those Lightning implementations, and all of those mobile wallets can implement and support Bolt12 today. So what does the adoption path look like? It's not as simple as just like support Bolt12 or not. I mean, it can be that simple, but one recommended way to look at how to do it is like any wallet can immediately support the things on the left with no degradation to user experience and no drawbacks. So I would encourage every wallet today to prioritize and implement paying Bolt12 offers. Because while it's not implemented in any wallets today, and there will be no users immediately, if every wallet were to support Bolt12 Pay, then any wallet can be very comfortable supporting Bolt12 Receive and can be confident that others can pay them. But we need to start with supporting paying. This is the same dynamic with any payment protocol or any Bitcoin script. We've seen this dance before, like the upgrade from legacy script to SegWit, and then native SegWit, and then Taproot have followed the same pattern where you have to wait for enough wallets to support sending until you can default to that being the receive experience. So I think we need to first start by encouraging wallets to support paying out. Of course, if you want to support receiving right away too, by all means, but from a priority perspective, supporting paying first is important. The other part I mentioned is human readable names, and I think this merits a specific call out, in that you can support not only paying, but also receiving via human readable names, and you can do so with no user experience drawback. And actually, before I explain that, maybe I'll start with the challenge with Bolt12 Receive. So if you open your wallet and you pick Receive, most wallets will show you like a QR code that you can then display to someone or send to someone, or you might get the long hexagraphic string of characters that you can share with people. But that has to default to something, and often it'll default to on-chain Bitcoin. Many UIs will have a tabbed interface where you can switch from on-chain to Lightning, but specifically like Bolt11. Then there might need to be another tab for LN URL. So with Bolt12, there'd be yet another tab that you show for Bolt12. And for the aforementioned reasons, it's not realistic to show that by default today because no wallet supports sending. So it just creates a UX decision you have to make, and it's a bit messy for a few years until we transition to most wallets supporting paying to Bolt12. But with human readable names, there's not that issue. So again, if you have Jordan at jordanlee.com as your human readable name, you can share that, people can pay that, and the implementation on the other end can resolve the right path to make the payment. So it can start by trying to pay via Bolt12. And if that fails, then it can fall back to other methods, and all of that's hidden from the end user. So that's why I would encourage that wallets today can do all three of the things on the left immediately. Aside from the engineering time and making it a priority, there's no UX drawback to it. So there, if you believe in the benefits of Bolt12, I would encourage wallet developers to immediately do the things on the left. And if you're not a wallet developer, but you're a user, and you see the benefits to Bolt12 and the importance of it, I'd encourage you to become vocal and tell your wallet vendor that it's important to you and that you'd like to see it in your wallet. Last slide is just a way to think about how to get adoption. I think we need to think about which wallets are likely to be early adopters and what would be their motivation. Clearly, wallets that are privacy-oriented are going to naturally see the benefits of Bolt12, and if their users are privacy-oriented, they'll see the benefits, and they'd be a likely early adopter. If you're a non-custodial mobile wallet, there's tremendous benefits to Bolt12, especially with the async payments protocol. So I think you're going to naturally be an early adopter. Dev kits like Breeze SDK and LDK can have a magnifying effect, because if they support it, then all of the wallets that use those SDKs can get these benefits. I also know, like, both Strike and Cash App, they're custodial solutions, so you might wonder why they really care about privacy and some of the aspects of Bolt12. But I do know the people behind those products, and the people behind those products absolutely are hardcore Bitcoiners, believe in the merits of digital cash and what I just presented about Bolt12. So even, I think some operators of custodial services will prioritize Bolt12 early, just because they want to see this ushered into Bitcoin. And there's even a pitch for compliance-oriented products, like something like Lightspark, and that there's a way to use onion messages as part of Bolt12 to share travel rule information if the payment is made between two VASP, or basically, regulated entities, which would not impact non-custodial users, but for the regulated wallets that do need to comply with travel rule, onion messages in Bolt12 actually offers a pretty slick implementation of that. So I think we see that as a way to get sort of everyone on board and make Bolt12 the standard. So that's it. And I don't know if there's any time for questions, but happy to take one or two if there's time.
Thank you.